Have you ever realized your entire family vanished while you were still holding the knife to carve the holiday turkey? That was my reality. One moment I was setting the table. The next I was staring at chairs that would never be filled. The laughter I expected never came. The smell of roasted turkey turned bitter in the silence. And at my place on the table, where my plate should have been, sat a folded piece of paper with my name on it. I froze. My house wasn't empty by accident. The coats were gone. The suitcases, too. The car keys were missing from the hook near the door. They hadn't forgotten me. They had planned this. My hands shook as I opened the paper. The words cut deeper than any blade. Dad, we decided to go without you. Don't be upset. It's better this way. And knees. No apology. No hesitation. Just cold finality. Like I had been erased from their lives. I called Anna. Straight to voicemail. I tried Mark. Nothing. My own blood had chosen silence over me. The turkey cooled on the counter. The candles burned lower, mocking me with their glow. My wife's picture, framed above the fireplace, seemed to ask if this was the family we built together. I pressed the note flat against the table and asked myself out loud, as if someone might answer, how do you survive when the people you love most decide you don't belong anymore? The paper felt heavier than it should have, as if each word carried the weight of betrayal. I read it again and again, hoping the letters might rearrange into something kinder, something that didn't slice me open. But the message stayed the same. They had left me. They had taken the trip I paid for, the one I planned down to the smallest detail. And they went without me. The kitchen was too quiet. My shoes echoed against the hardwood as I walked room to room. Their absence screamed louder than any argument. The closet by the front door yawned empty. Anna's red coat, the one she wore every Christmas Eve, was gone. Mark's duffel bag no longer leaned against the corner. Even the small travel pillow my granddaughter never left behind had vanished. They hadn't forgotten it. They hadn't forgotten anything. Except me. I pressed my hand against the wall as dizziness swept over me. My phone buzzed in my pocket. And for one sharp second I thought it was her. Calling to explain. It was only an automated message from the airline, confirming 3 check-ins on my account. My credit card had been charged thousands for the very tickets that carried them away from me. The house smelled of cinnamon and roasted turkey, but the scents only made me sick. The table was set with silver polished until it gleamed. Napkins folded the way Nora always liked them. I had even placed her picture at the end of the table, framed in gold, so she would still be part of our holiday. Now her smiling face looked back at me, frozen in time, while I stood alone among the ruins of what was supposed to be family. I sank into her old chair, the one she claimed every Christmas morning, and unfolded the note until the crease split. My daughter's handwriting was unmistakable. Loops and curves she had learned in 4th grade. A style I could spot anywhere. But these words were not the words of my child. They were the words of a stranger who saw me as disposable. I dialed her number again. Straight to voicemail. I tried Mark. No answer. I scrolled through my contacts, hovering over friends, cousins, neighbors. What could I even say? That my own family had abandoned me in my own house? Worked myself to the bone for? Left me with nothing but cold food and colder silence? The tree twinkled in the corner. Presents stacked beneath it with their names written in my careful hand. I had chosen each gift with love. I knew their tastes, their wishes, the little things that made them smile. Now the boxes felt like gravestones, reminders of how little my devotion mattered. I picked up one package, wrapped in silver paper. To Anna, from Dad. My throat tightened until I thought I might choke. I pressed the gift against my chest and whispered into the empty room. Why wasn't I enough? But the walls did not answer. Only the clock ticked. Steady and merciless. Counting the minutes since my world collapsed. I needed proof. Not anger. Not guesswork. Proof that this was not a bad impulse. Proof that the people I loved had rehearsed my absence like a scene in a play. The old tablet lay in the drawer next to the phone book. It still signed in to our family cloud. I charged it and watched the dark screen wake up. New banners slid down one by one. Calendar invites. Shared notes. Images of suitcases lined on a carpet that was not mine. There was a shared note named Winter Plan. My finger hovered. I opened it. The pages scrolled like a long corridor. Flights to Denver with a connection to Jackson Hole. Room assignments at a lodge of rustic beams and staged fireplaces. Restaurant bookings with descriptions of dress code. Names assigned to every seat at every table. I searched for mine. The page started with 11 names. Then 10. Then 9. A clean gap where my name should have been. In the comments, I read a line that clawed at my chest. Keep it simple. We all need space. I backed out and opened messages. The group thread was called Fresh Start. Anna. Mark. 2 of their friends. And Mark's sister Ivy. They spoke like planners at a conference. Words like boundaries and quiet time and reset. A message from Ivy 3 weeks ago. If he comes, he will make the trip about grief again. Let this be fun. Another from Mark. He can handle a few days alone. He always says he likes solitude. A reply from Anna. He will be hurt, but maybe hurt is better than controlled. I put the tablet down. I told myself not to read more. I told myself to protect what little remained unbroken. Then I opened the photo stream and saw their living room last night. Suitcases in a neat line. Boots polished. A hand over a lens, as if to hide something. On the corner of a table sat a stack of envelopes. The top one read Dad. I walked to the kitchen and ran cold water over my wrists. The windows were black. My face floated there like a stranger who had wandered into my life. I dried my hands and went to the garage. The bin for recycling held yesterday's papers. I tipped the stack onto the floor. Glossy prints slid out. Boarding pass. Hotel confirmations. A spa itinerary with my card number on the bottom. Someone had torn my name off the top margins with careful hands. Not careful enough. A small curl of paper still clung to one edge. I teased it free and held it to the light. My last name showed in ghosted ink. The phone on the counter blinked with a voicemail. I pressed play. The travel agent spoke in a warm voice. Confirmation for 3. Upgrade applied. Thank you for your continued business. Please call if you have questions. Mr. Hale. I replayed the end. Continued business. I tried to remember the last time I used a travel agent. Then I understood. They had called using my account. I felt both proud of my good credit and ashamed of what it had bought. I leaned against the counter and thought about dinner last Sunday. We had eaten pasta that overcooked by 2 minutes because I told too long a story. Mark cleared the plates as if he could clear the air itself. Anna poured water but did not meet my eyes. I had talked about Nora. It was the week of her birthday. I had said I missed her and that the holidays were hard. Mark set the plates down with a soft click. Maybe we could try something lighter this year. He said, maybe we could try a new tradition. I had nodded. I always try to nod toward peace. Anna had smiled without showing her teeth. We will plan something simple, she said. No pressure. I did not hear what she was telling me. I heard only the sweetness. After they left, I put 2 candles on the mantel and told the room I was proud of how kind we were to each other. A text chimed. It was my neighbor. Jules. Just saw a rideshare in your driveway an hour ago. Thought you were leaving too. Safe travels. I stared at the message until the words blurred. I typed back. They left early. Then I erased the letters and wrote nothing at all. I opened the drawer where I keep envelopes. stamps, and things that matter only when they are tested. There were copies of tuition payments from years ago. The papers for the mortgage help when Anna and Mark were first married. A promissory note we signed because my lawyer insisted on it. I had forgotten that day on purpose. I did not want to remember their faces when I asked them to sign. They looked confused. They looked young. I had said it was only so we all knew what we were doing. I had meant it kindly. They had signed with quick strokes. We laughed afterward, relieved that love could be both tender and clear. The tablet buzzed again. A final note appeared in the fresh start thread. Do not answer his calls until we land. Let him cool off. Send a message tonight. Be soft. Keep it positive. I read it twice. It felt like a coaching memo for a performance I had not been invited to see. I walked to the living room and stood in front of Nora's picture. She smiled at me from a summer day when the tide was low and we found sand dollars like coins. I spoke to her, and did not care if I was only speaking to myself. I told her I should have seen it sooner. The little corrections when I talked too long. The way plans were firm until I joined them. Then suddenly flexible. The way grief had become a project for others to manage. I sat down and laid the papers in a neat stack. I wrote dates on sticky notes. I circled the words that had replaced love with structure. Boundaries. Reset. Space. My hand was steady now. The shock was still there, but it had changed its shape. It had become a plan of my own, not a plan to punish. A plan to stop pretending that I was part of something that had already pushed me outside. I folded the last boarding pass and slipped it into my pocket. I did not know yet what I would do. I only knew that I would no longer be the only person at this table who told the truth. I dialed Anna again and listened to the ring crawl across the room. It felt like a rope sliding out of my hands. Voicemail. Her voice was bright and careful. Leave a message. I heard my own breath in the tiny speaker. I said her name. I said it twice. The call cut off. I called Mark. The same result. I called Ivy and heard the network hum and fail. Silence can be louder than anger. It filled every hallway. It pressed against my chest like a weight. I turned off the oven. The turkey had gone dull and dry. I carved a thin slice and could not swallow. I pushed the plate away and stood very still. The refrigerator hummed. The clock ticked. The lights on the tree blinked with their patient code. I felt like a man waiting for a verdict that had already been read. I tried the airline. The agent asked for my name and the last 4 digits on the card. I gave them. She placed me on hold. I stood at the window and watched a gull ride the wind above the gray water. The agent returned with a tidy voice. 3 passengers checked in on your reservation. Mr. Hale. Can you tell me if they are airborne? I am not allowed to share more, she said. But her pause told me what I needed. They were gone. They were not coming back for dinner. They were not bringing the bottle of wine Mark promised to bring. They had taken my gift and left me with my ghosts. I called the lodge, listed on the itinerary. A man at the front desk greeted me with half cheer. I told him my name. He confirmed the booking and the welcome basket. I asked him to leave a note at the desk. Tell them their father called. Tell them the house is safe. He said, of course. His compassion cut deeper than he knew. He wished me a good evening. I said thank you and meant the sound of it to carry. When I hung up, the room felt taller and colder. I walked through the house one more time. I tried to see a mistake. I tried to see a message I missed. In the study, I found a glass with a ring of water on the desk. On the shelf, I saw the novel Anna said she would borrow. It was still there. She had not taken it for the flight. She had taken everything else. My neighbor Jules texted again. Did you make it to the airport? I typed the truth and deleted it. I wrote back that plans had changed. He replied with a thumbs up. I could not see. I put the phone down on the table and stared at the folded note. I read the sentence that carried the blade. We decided to go without you. It is better this way. I went to the garage and stood by the old workbench. The smell of cedar and oil felt like a hand on my shoulder. I took a deep breath. I closed my eyes. I saw Nora on a pier in late summer. She held a paper cup of coffee with both hands. She said, "The cold makes us honest." She said, "We will tell the truth when our breath is white in the air." I opened my eyes and saw mine. I tried Anna one more time. I spoke to the tone. I told her the turkey was ready. I told her the lights were warm. I told her I would wait until 10. I told her I would put the food away so it would not spoil. I told her I loved her. I hung up before the tone cut me off. I kept the message short, so she would listen to the end. I cleaned the kitchen like a man who cannot sleep. I wrapped the leftovers. I stacked the plates. I wiped the counters until they shone. I swept the floor. All the while my mind played the same scene. Anna in a coat I did not buy. Mark lining up the bags. Ivy checking a list on her phone. My name on a page and then gone. At midnight I set the alarm and turned out the lights. The house held the dark like a secret. In the bedroom I sat on the edge of the bed and put my hands on my knees. I listened to the faint hum of the heater and the long, soft sigh of wind in the trees. I asked the question I had not said aloud. Was I a burden to the people I love? The room did not answer. I lay back and stared at the ceiling until the lines blurred. I did not cry. I waited. The waiting felt like a kind of prayer. Morning would come. Calls would be returned or not. I had proof on a table and a letter in a drawer. I had an empty seat at a set table. I had a voice that still worked. In the dark I made a promise to myself. I would not beg for a place at a table I had built. I would ask for truth. If truth could not live here, I would let it live in me. At 10, I sat at the table with a pen and a yellow pad. I wrote a message I did not send. Come home. I crossed it out. I wrote, I forgive you, and crossed that out too. I wrote, I am here. I looked at the 3 words until they looked strange. I set the pen down. I typed a text and watched the cursor blink. I erased it and put the phone face down. I tried the house line in case their phones blocked mine. I knew the number of their kitchen. The call rang until the machine picked up. Their family greeting played in voices that sounded far away. I spoke to a tone and a memory. I said the porch light was on here. I said I would be up late. I asked them to call if they needed anything. I promised I would not raise my voice. I thanked the machine for listening. I ended the call and felt both foolish and sane. At dawn, I stopped waiting for kindness. I put on a sweater and made coffee I would not drink. I set the note beside the mug like a witness. I spoke out loud to the empty room. Enough. I called the lodge first. A woman answered with a practiced smile in her voice. Welcome to the Grand Teton Lodge. How may I assist? This is Daniel Hale. I said, the reservation is under my account. Please remove my card from all incidentals. She hesitated. Sir, there is a card on file for room charges. That card is mine. I said, remove it now. Silence. Keys. A click. Done. She said. I heard her swallow. Would you like to leave another card? No. If they want extras, they can use their own. She cleared her throat. I can also cancel add-ons. Do it. I said. She read a list. 2 spa packages. A sleigh ride at dusk. A chef tasting menu on the second night. Ski lessons for 3 mornings. Dog sled tour. Wine pairing. I said the word cancel until it lost its shape. She tried to save the sale. We could reschedule. We could offer credit. No. I said, cancel and confirm in writing. She asked for my email. I gave it. The words felt sharp and clean in my mouth. I hung up and stared at Nora's photo. I waited for guilt. It did not come. I felt a steadiness instead. I dialed the travel agent. A familiar voice answered. Mr. Hale. Happy holidays. We have the last upgrade ready. Not anymore. I said. Remove my payment authorization. Remove all auto approvals under my profile. Lock the account with a verbal passcode. He stumbled. Did something happen? I am changing my plans. I said. He asked for the passphrase. I said a new one. He entered it twice and read it back. He sounded smaller now. Anything else? Send me a ledger of every booking on my card for the last 60 days. He promised it by noon. I opened my laptop and logged into the card portal. My hands did not shake. I knew this screen. I had used it to raise limits for emergencies and to fix small mistakes. Today I used it for myself. I turned off the card for travel. I turned off tap to pay. I changed the online password. I added alerts for every attempt. I set a rule. No charges without my approval. The page asked me if I was sure. I pressed yes. I liked the finality of the word. The phone buzzed. A text from the lodge. Confirmation. Spa cancelled. Chef menu cancelled. Sleigh ride cancelled. Lessons cancelled. The list ran long. I read it like a poem I wish I had never had to learn. I called the rental shop listed on the itinerary. A young voice answered with too much cheer. I gave my name. He checked the booking. 3 premium packages. He said. I said cancel. We have a 24-hour policy. He tried. You can keep your fee. I said, cancel the rest. He thanked me in a quiet voice. I thanked him back. He did not know he had just paid me a small respect. He did not push. He did not pretend to know my life. I walked to the tree and knelt. I pulled the gifts out. One by one. I set them on the rug in rows. I read every tag. I pictured each moment when I chose each item. The scarf in winter blue. The watch that Mark wanted but would not buy. The book of poems Anna read in high school that made her cry. I pressed my palm on the paper and held it there. Then I stood and carried the stack to the study. I put them in the closet and shut the door. The click sounded like a line drawn. I called the bank next. The hold music was soft and bright. It made my teeth ache. A man with a careful tone came on. My name is Daniel Hale. I want to remove all authorized devices from my wallet. He guided me through screens. I saw my name and 2 phones under family share. Remove them, I said. He asked if I wanted to keep purchase alerts. Keep them, I said. Send them only to me. He asked if he could help with anything else. I paused. Yes. Add a note that I will not authorize third-party travel charges this week. He did. He read it back. His voice gained weight. He asked if I was safe. I said I was. It felt true enough. The doorbell rang. Jules stood on the step in a knit cap. He held a tin of cookies. He smiled, then saw my face and stopped. You all right, Dan? Plans changed, I said. He waited. He knows me well. He did not press. He handed me the tin. We stood there like men on a ship in a hard wind. If you need anything, he said. I nodded. Thank you. When he left, I opened the tin and ate 1 cookie. It tasted like cloves and winter. I put the rest on a plate for later. I sat at the table with a yellow pad. I wrote headings. Travel, house, accounts, words like posts in the ground. I wrote steps under each. Small and clear. Call lodge. Done. Remove card. Done. Cancel add-ons. Done. Change password. Done. Lock travel profile. Done. Document receipts. In progress. I pulled the file box closer. I set out folders. Tuition. The down payment from years ago. The bridge loan for their kitchen that went over budget. The medical bill I paid when Mark broke his wrist and could not work. I put sticky flags on dates and amounts. I was not hunting for revenge on paper. I was building a record. So I would not lie to myself again. My phone buzzed. A group text I had not seen in years woke up. Family thread. A message appeared. Landed. Snowing. So pretty. A photo followed. A window. A wing. A line of lights on a runway. I stared at the pixels until they blurred and bled. I did not reply. I watched 3 dots appear and vanish. Then the thread went quiet. I called the concierge one last time. "This is Daniel Hale," I said. "If they ask for me, tell them I called to wish them a good trip." The woman paused. "Of course," she said. "Would you like to leave a number?" "They have it," I said. She took a breath. She wanted to say more. She did not. I walked the house and turned off every light I did not need. I opened a window an inch and let the cold in. I let it clear the warm lie that still hung in the rooms. I washed the good plates by hand. I dried them and set them in the hutch. I folded the napkins and put them away. I unplugged the tree. The dark did not scare me. It steadied me. Before noon, I printed the confirmations. I clipped them together. I wrote a line at the top. "Effective, today all optional charges are canceled. Any new charges require my approval." I signed my name. I looked at the ink while it dried. It looked like a man I could stand to be. I sat down and called a number I had avoided for a long time. A firm downtown. The receptionist recognized my name. She put me through. A voice I trusted came on the line. "Dan. It has been a while. How are you?" I took a breath. I said the truth. "I need counsel." The voice on the line belonged to Robert Flynn, my attorney of 22 years. He had been with me when I sold the hardware business, when I drafted Nora's will, when I lent Anna and Mark money for their first house. He was steady, measured, never rattled. Hearing him say my name made something inside me unclench. "Dan, tell me what's going on." I sat at my desk. Papers spread like evidence. I told him everything. The note on my chair. The vanished coats. The trip booked on my card. The hotel charges I had already canceled. My voice did not crack. It sounded almost businesslike. He let the silence stretch, the way only seasoned lawyers can. Then he spoke slowly. "You've kept receipts. You've documented payments. And you have that promissory note from the house loan. Correct?" "Yes. 80,000. Signed by both. It's in the file." "Good. That loan is callable. You can demand repayment within 30 days. We drafted it carefully for that reason." I heard myself exhale. "And the tuition? The medical bills? The renovations? Those were gifts, Dan. Unless you structured them differently, you can't demand them back. But they do establish a pattern, years of financial dependency. That matters if they try to claim you're being unreasonable. Judges see dependency for what it is." I looked at the stack. Half my retirement poured into their lives. He was right. Most of it was gone forever. But not all. Not the house loan. Not the credit cards. "What about the cards?" I asked. "You're the primary. They're authorized users. Cancel them immediately. Their debt is technically yours. But you can demand repayment. More important, you can stop the bleeding." I pressed the pen harder against my pad. "Cancel today. Demand repayment. Prepare loan recall notice." Robert's voice softened. "Dan, I need to ask, are you sure this is the road you want to walk? Once you call in that loan, once you cancel those cards, you'll be drawing a line they can't pretend not to see." I closed my eyes and saw the table set for 12. Empty, but for me. I saw Nora's blue plate with its napkin folded. Neat. I saw the note where my name should have been. Yes. I said, I'm sure. All right. I'll have the documents drafted by tomorrow morning. In the meantime, call your bank. Shut down access. Protect your accounts. Do not wait. After I hung up, I opened the safe at the back of the closet. I laid out the promissory note, the signed mortgage assistance contract, the receipts I'd kept because Nora once said I was too careful. Too careful. Those words had embarrassed me then. Now they saved me. The phone buzzed again. A message from Anna's number. Dad. We landed safe. Snowing hard here. Hope you're warm. Love you. I stared at the screen until it went black. My thumb hovered. I could have written back. I could have sent a line about the weather. About being careful on the roads. Instead, I locked the phone and set it face down. At noon, I drove to the bank. The lobby smelled like polish and pine. A young associate greeted me with forced cheer. How can I help you today? Mr. Hale? I slid my card across the desk. Remove all authorized users from this account. Effective immediately. He blinked. May I ask the reason? Family restructuring, I said. He nodded. Typed. Clicked. It will take 24 hours to process. Good. I said. Cancel all linked mobile wallets. Issue me a new card with overnight delivery. He hesitated. Then complied. Back in the car, I felt the air sting my face. The kind of sting that clears a man's head. I drove home slow, watching the bare trees whip in the wind. At 3 o'clock, Robert called again. I've prepared the notice. We'll courier it tomorrow morning. It gives them 30 days to repay. If they fail, we proceed to judgment. You're protected. Thank you, I said. He paused. Dan, I know this hurts. You're not just collecting money. You're reclaiming dignity. Don't forget that. I set the phone down and looked around my study. The papers lay in neat rows. For the first time since Christmas Eve, I felt in control. My family had made their plan. Now I had mine. They called at dawn. Then again at 9. I let the phone ring until it stopped. The house stayed quiet. The quiet was a wall I could lean on. At 10, a car pulled into my drive. I watched from the window. 3 shapes climbed out. Anna in a knit hat. Mark in a thin coat. Ivy behind them. Eyes on her phone. I opened the door before they could knock. Come in, I said. We stood in the living room like people meeting after a storm. Anna spoke first. We landed and the desk said our extras were canceled. The lessons, the dinner, the sleigh ride. Was that you? Yes. I removed my card. I canceled the add-ons. You may enjoy the trip you planned. You will pay for it yourselves. Mark took a step closer. We did not mean to hurt you, he said. We thought the holiday might be easier if we kept things simple. Boundaries. Time to reset. You left a note on my chair, I said. You used my account. You coached each other to avoid my calls. That is not a boundary. That is erasing a person. Ivy slipped her phone into her pocket. It was my idea to wait to call, she said. We wanted to give you space until you calmed down. There was nothing to calm, I said. There was only truth. Anna's eyes filled. We were overwhelmed. We needed a trip that was not about grief. She glanced at Nora's picture and then away. We wanted lightness. We wanted to laugh without feeling watched. You could have asked, I said. You could have said the trip would be just the 3 of you. We would have had a hard talk and found a decent shape for it. Instead, you planned a clean removal. You made me the problem and then used my wallet to solve it. Mark's jaw worked. We did not take anything you did not offer, he said. The trip was your gift. A gift needs open hands, I said, not silence and a note. This is dramatic, he said. We are here now. We can fix it. Put the card back on file. We will spend time together when we return. We will talk. No. The card stays off. We will talk when the talk is honest. What does honest mean to you? Anna asked. It means you say the thing behind your careful words. It means you admit who sent the text that said do not answer him. Ivy swallowed. That was me. She said. I told them not to pick up. I said you would talk until they agreed with you. I thought I was protecting them. Protecting them from what? I asked. From pressure, she said. From guilt? I looked at Anna. Do you believe that? She did not answer. Mark lifted his hands. We need solutions. Keep the trip. Enjoy it. We come home and start fresh. We all commit to counseling. You step back. We include you with limits. That is fair. There will be no reset until there is repair. I said. Repair begins with accountability. Say what you did. We left you. Anna whispered. We left you in a house you filled for us. We took your money and we left. Why? I asked. Because it felt easier. She said. Because I am tired of carrying your sadness. Because I wanted one day where I did not think about Mom and whether I was enough for both of us. I hear you. I said. Hear me. Grief is not a stain you catch by touching me. It is a tide. It rises and falls. We keep each other steady by telling the truth. Mark stepped in front of her. This is why we needed space. He said. You turn everything into a lesson. Then I will keep it simple. I have called in the house loan. You have 30 days. The notice will arrive tomorrow. I have canceled your cards. I have removed my guarantees on the truck. You will need to stand on your own names. Anna's hand found the back of a chair. Not the house, she said. Please. You chose the plane. I said. Choices have weight. This is mine. I will not carry what you refuse to name. You would make your daughter homeless over hurt feelings. Mark said. I would make my daughter honest. I said. If honesty costs a house. The house was too expensive to keep. Ivy's voice was thin. We can call Aunt Liza. She can mediate. No. No committees. No soft words that hide hard acts. You do not need a mediator. You need a mirror. We stood together in the quiet. The heater clicked on. Somewhere a branch tapped the siding. Anna wiped her face. What do you want from us? She asked. An apology. A plan. What will make this stop? Stop thinking of me as a problem to manage. I said. Start thinking of yourselves as people who can face hard truth without borrowing my credit to dull it. Mark stared at the floor. We should go, he said. Anna looked at me. Do you still love me? Always. Love is not the question. The question is whether you will live like it matters. They left without another word. The car turned toward the road. I stood at the window until the taillights were gone. Then I went to the table and wrote the date at the top of my pad. I wrote one line under it. Today I chose truth over ease. I sat for a long time with the pen in my hand. The room was the same. Yet not. The tree in the corner held its quiet lights. The gifts were gone to the closet. The plate on the mantel showed Nora smiling in a summer dress. I spoke her name once. It did not break me. It steadied me. I had not won. I had not lost. I had simply stopped pretending. The calls began again that night. First Anna, her voice sharp with tears. Then Mark, louder, angrier. Then Ivy, whispering fast like someone reading from a script. I let the phone ring each time. When I finally answered, it was nearly midnight. Dad, Anna said, you're destroying us. The bank froze the card. The hotel says no extras. We have nothing out here. You have each other. I said. That was the choice you made. Mark's voice cut in, raw with anger. You can't do this. We're already here. You can't pull the rug out after the fact. I leaned back in the chair. You left me with a note. You left me to eat dinner alone. You thought my money was yours to command. You were wrong. There was silence. Then a long breath that sounded like rage pressed flat. You'll regret this. Mark said, threats don't work here. I said, not anymore. The line went dead. I stared at the black screen and waited for the next call. It didn't come. 2 days later, they were on my porch. Snow clung to their coats, their hair damp from the storm. I opened the door but did not step aside. We need to talk, Anna said, her face pale. Come in, I said, but my voice held no warmth. They sat on the couch, restless. Ivy twisted a tissue until it tore. Mark leaned forward, elbows on his knees, fists clenched. You can't follow through on this loan, he said. We don't have $80,000. You'll ruin us. You ruined the trust. I said, I'm only collecting what you signed for. Anna's hands trembled. Daddy, please. The baby's room. The mortgage if we lose the house. Where will we go? You should have asked that before you chose to cut me out. I said. Mark's face flushed red. He stood and towered over me. Do you know what happens to old men alone in big houses? Accidents happen. Fires. Break-ins. He leaned closer, his breath sour with threat. People slip. People fall. I met his eyes and did not flinch. Say it again, I told him. His voice dropped, low and cold. If you keep this up, you'll end up regretting more than money. Anna gasped, grabbing his arm. Stop it. Just stop. But he didn't stop. His fists flexed, his jaw clenched. He thought fear would bend me. He didn't know fear had already burned out of me. I stood slowly, pressing record on the phone I'd set on the table before they arrived. The red light glowed between us. Thank you, I said. Now I have proof. Mark froze, realizing too late. Anna began to sob, her cries sharp, desperate. Ivy covered her face with her hands. You've just crossed the line, I said, and I won't pretend anymore. I walked to the door and opened it wide. The night air rushed in, bitter and clean. Get out. Mark hesitated, his face twisting with fury. Anna pulled him by the sleeve. Ivy stumbled after them. They left without another word, snow crunching under their boots, their car starting with a roar that faded into the dark. I stood in the doorway long after they were gone, the cold biting my skin. My hand did not shake. My voice did not waver. This was the breaking point, and I was done being the man they thought they could threaten into silence. The morning after the threat, I sent the recording to Robert. He called at 8. Email the file again, he said. Keep a log. Stay factual. I said I would. By noon, the courier confirmed delivery of the loan notice. 30 days. The bank emailed next. Authorized users removed. New card in transit. I printed both and set them on the stack. It did not feel like revenge. It felt like order. An alert buzzed. Attempted purchase at the lodge shop. Declined. Another ping. Restaurant bar. Declined. Then a text from Anna. The card is not working. Can you lift the block? We will pay you back. I wrote 2 lines. I hope you are safe. All charges require my approval. 2 days later, a letter came from their mortgage company. Your loan may be in default if payment is not received. My name sat on the 3rd line as a contact. I filed it. I knew the chain that would follow. Notices. Calls. A court date. Jules knocked with a snow shovel. He asked no questions. He cleared the walk and left a jar of soup. I ate it at the counter. Warmth spread across a cold day. Robert called at dusk. A report had been filed. The recording was clear. If contact turned ugly, call at once. He asked if I wanted a protective order. Not yet, I said. He said the law can be a shield when family is not. The week moved like weather. Sun on ice, then sleet. Then a clean, hard sky. I bought a new lock and a camera for the back door. On the main road, a tow truck pulled a familiar pickup. I kept driving. At night, a banker texted. The guarantee on the vehicle has been removed. The borrower did not qualify. The loan has been accelerated. I thanked him and turned the phone face down. The lodge sent the final invoice for room and taxes. I paid it. My browser chimed again. The court had opened the case to collect the house loan. Dates and numbers stacked like bricks. I could stand on them. A cousin wrote to ask if I was all right. She had heard a story about me that sounded rehearsed. I told the truth in 10 lines and sent a photo of the table set for the night they left. She replied with 3 words. I believe you. One morning I saw a public photo of Anna and Ivy on a bus with 2 bags at their feet. The caption said, Travel Day. People sent hearts. They did not know they were looking at loss. I closed the page and poured coffee I did not need. The sheriff served the court papers on a Friday. Robert called to say the delivery had been made. He asked if I was sleeping. Better. I said. He told me to do one small thing that had nothing to do with law. I walked to the dock and watched the gulls. A boy in a red hat waved. I waved back. 2 weeks passed. Another letter from the mortgage company. Then a notice of a hearing. Then a note from a recruiter. No openings for Mark while an open case appears on a background check. It was a soft door closing. I filed it. I cleaned the guest room that used to be a playroom. Chalk marks still showed on the wall. A house. 3 stick people. A sun with lines like hair. I wiped them away. The room looked plain and honest. I opened the window and let winter into the corners. On a cold Monday, Anna came alone. She stood on the porch with a scarf and a paper bag. She handed me the key to the safe and the cards with my name. Daddy, she said. I made a mess. I thought I was strong. I was careless. She cried like someone trying to breathe through water. I stepped aside. She did not come in. She asked if there was any way back. Not to the easy thing, she said. To the true thing. The true thing needs time and proof. I said, words that match actions. She nodded. She asked to call on Sundays at 5. She said she would keep it short and kind. She promised she would not ask for money. I said yes. She held the bag a little tighter and stepped back. Snow lifted from the porch rail in a small gust. Then she turned and walked away. The next day, the house was listed for sale. I looked at the pictures. The kitchen I helped fix. The small lamp in the baby room. A porch swing I had oiled last spring. Offers due in a week. I closed the page and cut back the roses in thin light. In the 3rd week, a final envelope came from the court. Judgment in my favor on the loan. The amount in clear numbers. The clerk signed in blue ink. Robert explained the next steps. The sale would close. The debt would be paid. Any remainder would go to them. He asked how I felt. Empty and calm at once. I said, that night I cooked pasta and ate it at the table. I lifted a small glass to the picture on the mantel. I told Nora the storm had taken weak limbs and left the trunk standing. I told her I had not become cruel. I had become clear. The house was quiet and alive. The consequences were not a victory. They were the shape of the truth we had run from. Now it had caught up. I slept through the night for the first time in a month. In the morning I opened the curtains and let the light in. It fell across the floor like a clean sheet. I stood and breathed. Not proud, not ashamed, only done with lies. That was enough for one day. They returned on a gray afternoon, walking up the drive with heads bowed. No suitcases this time. No confidence. Only the look of people who had run out of options. I watched from the window before opening the door. The air was sharp, the kind that makes your breath visible, the kind that strips away pretense. Anna carried nothing but a folder. Mark's hands were empty. His shoulders slumped. Ivy trailed behind, her eyes red from crying. They stepped into the living room as if it were a courtroom. "Dad," Anna began, her voice thin. "We've lost everything. The house is gone. The car too. We've been staying in a single room with a mattress on the floor. Please, please." I gestured to the chairs but did not sit with them. I remained standing, watching. Words are easier from a height. Mark spoke next, his voice stripped of anger. "I said things I shouldn't have. I threatened you. I was desperate and stupid. I don't expect forgiveness. I only ask for mercy." Ivy clutched her tissue. "We can't keep living like this. We need you." I let their words settle, like snow falling heavy on branches. Then I asked one question: "What exactly do you want from me?" Silence. They looked at one another. Finally Anna said it. "Help. Money. Shelter. A way back." I nodded slowly. Help is not a word. Help is an action. "Tell me why you deserve it after what you did." Tears filled her eyes. "Because we're family. Family." I repeated. Is family leaving a note on a holiday table? Is family using a man's credit and shutting him out? Her sobs grew louder. "I'm sorry. We were wrong. We should never have done it. Please believe me." I leaned against the mantel, looking at Nora's picture. "Do you know what real sorry looks like? It doesn't hide behind excuses. It doesn't beg only when the money runs out." Mark's head dropped. "What can we do?" he asked. "What will make you see us differently? Live honestly." I said, "Stand on your own. Pay your debts. Stop thinking of me as a wallet with a heartbeat." Ivy whispered, "We can't survive without you." "Then you will learn how," I said. Anna reached into her folder and pulled out photographs. Our family through the years, birthdays, vacations, graduations. She spread them on the table like evidence. "Look at these," she cried. "Remember when you taught me to ride a bike? When you held my hand at graduation? When you walked me down the aisle?" I looked at them. Every picture was real. But pictures can lie about the present. They freeze smiles that died later. I picked up one and set it back down. "Memories don't erase betrayal." She dropped to her knees. "Daddy, please. We'll change. I'll change. I swear it." Mark's voice cracked. "Just tell us what to do." I finally sat down, my voice steady. "What you do is accept the consequences. What you do is stop begging for shortcuts. What you do is prove, over time, that you understand what you broke. Until then, there is nothing more to give." The room fell into silence except for Anna's sobs. I stood again, walked to the door, and opened it wide. The cold swept in. "You should go now." They hesitated, but the look on my face gave them no choice. They filed out, broken in ways they had not imagined. As the car pulled away, I felt no joy, no victory. Only a heavy sadness mixed with clarity. They had begged, but their begging did not heal the wound. It only reminded me how deep it was. The letter from the court arrived on a Tuesday. I set it on the table and made tea I did not need. I read the judgment until the numbers felt ordinary. The sale had closed. The debt would be paid. The balance would go to them. It was not triumph. It was the last line on a page. Robert called to walk me through the next steps. Title transfers. Release of guarantees. Notices to creditors. He spoke in a voice I trusted. When he finished, he asked if I wanted to update my will. I said yes. We set an appointment for Friday. In Robert's office, we sat under a map of our town. He read the old beneficiaries and crossed out names with a neat stroke. We wrote a new plan that fit the truth of my life. A scholarship in Nora's name at the community college. A gift to the clinic where she had volunteered. My niece, Claire, who visited on Sundays and brought bread without asking for anything. A small bequest to the library. For the family, we wrote a sentence that was kind and firm. Excluded for cause. When I returned home, a message blinked on my phone. Anna wanted to meet for coffee. I said yes, and chose a public place with windows and light. She arrived in a plain coat and sat with her hands around a mug. For a moment we said nothing. Then she looked up. "I know you changed your will," she said. "This town is small." I nodded. "It is my right." I said, "It is my duty." She stared at the steam. "Do you hate me?" "I do not." I said, "Hate is simple. This is not simple. I love you and I do not trust you. Both can be true at once." She wiped her eyes with her sleeve. "We have a room now outside the city. It is small and clean. Mark is working days at a warehouse and nights at a gas station. Ivy moved in with a friend. We are trying." Her voice shook. "I know I cannot ask for money. I will not. I am asking for a way to be your daughter again. A path. Rules. Something I can follow." I thought of the first time she reached for my hand as a baby. I thought of her science fair when she built a tiny lighthouse that lit. I thought of the note on my chair. I set my hands flat on the table. "There is a path," I said. "It is narrow and long. It starts with honesty. It continues with time. It does not pass through my wallet. It ends when actions and words match for a season measured in years. There will be no shortcuts. If you need food, you go to the pantry downtown. If you need advice, you can ask me on Sundays at 5. If you lie, the path closes. If you threaten, it closes forever." She nodded and did not argue. I asked if she was safe. She said yes. She asked if I was lonely. I told her the truth. Less lonely than I expected. Truth is company. We walked out and stood on the sidewalk. She hugged me. It was brief. When she let go, she looked older and more honest. "Call me at 5 on Sunday," I said. "Keep it short. Tell me one true thing." She promised she would and walked away. That night Mark came alone. He knocked softly and stood with his hat in his hands. I let him in and stayed near the door. He did not sit. He did not shout. He apologized without drama. He said the words I had needed to hear. "I threatened you," he said. "It was wrong. I will accept any consequence." I asked if he understood that being decent is not a transaction. He said he was learning. I told him the same path applied to him. Time. Work. Truth. He nodded and thanked me for opening the door. He did not ask for money. He left as quietly as he came. Days settled into a pattern. I woke early. I walked the shoreline. I fixed the loose hinge on the pantry. I joined a Thursday book circle at the library. I told no one there who I used to be. I was only Dan, who liked stories that tell the truth. On Sundays at 5, the phone rang. Sometimes Anna spoke. Sometimes she only breathed and said she was safe. Sometimes she told me a small thing that was clean and real. I bought apples and paid in cash. I learned to cook beans. We laughed about how simple food can still feel like a feast. One afternoon, an envelope arrived with no return address. Inside was a photo of a small apartment, 2 plates on a table, sun on a floor, a short note in a careful hand. "We are learning. Thank you for the rules." There was no request for money, only a line that sounded like a vow to themselves. "We will live within what is ours." Robert called to close the file. He said the last check had cleared and the case was done. He asked if I wanted to celebrate. I said I already had. I bought new walking shoes and threw away the old note that had once sat on my chair. I could not forget it. But I did not need to keep it close. That evening I stood on the deck with a mug of tea and watched the sky take a color. The water caught the light. I spoke aloud to Nora. I told her the cut had closed. I told her the scar would tell a story. But not the only story. I told her that if you stop paying for a lie, it starves. I told her that love without truth is a trap, and truth without love is a knife, and that I was learning to hold both with steady hands. I went inside and wrote one sentence at the top of a new page. Today I kept my heart open and my door wise. Then I closed the book and turned off the light. February broke with clear skies. The snowbanks shrank day by day, dripping into gutters that gurgled like streams. I walked each morning along the water, the air sharp in my lungs, for the first time in months. I did not look at my phone before leaving the house. I carried nothing but keys and the steady rhythm of my steps. The library group asked me to read aloud one Thursday. I chose a story about a man who rebuilt a life after loss. My voice shook at first, but then steadied. When I finished, they clapped not for the words, but for the sound of someone willing to speak. A woman with silver hair touched my arm and said, "You sound lighter now." I believed her. Sunday calls from Anna grew calmer. Sometimes she told me about work. Sometimes about cooking a meal with only 4 ingredients. Sometimes about learning to live without credit. She never asked for money. She kept her promise. Mark worked long shifts, and when he spoke in the background, his tone was not sharp. It was tired, but honest. Ivy stayed away. That was her choice. I filled the house with new rituals. A pot of coffee for neighbors who dropped by unannounced. A chess game at the senior center on Wednesdays. A class at the community hall where I learned how to fix a bicycle chain. Children laughed there, grease on their hands. While I bent low to help, they called me Mr. H. I had not been called anything with respect in a long time. One evening, Claire brought her 2 boys. They ran through the house, chasing each other with wooden swords I had made from scrap. Their joy bounced off the walls that once held silence. I watched them eat cookies at the kitchen counter and thought, this is what family by choice looks like. The will sat finished in Robert's safe. The scholarship fund bore Nora's name. The clinic sent a thank you letter. The library placed a small plaque above the reading nook. I visited each place quietly, not to be thanked but to see the seeds planted. They were real, solid, unshakable. At night, I sat by the fire with a book and let the pages turn without rushing. Sometimes I thought of the note that had once gutted me. I no longer kept it in a drawer. I had burned it in the fireplace, watching the flames take each word. I thought of the photo Anna sent of her small apartment, and I whispered a hope that she would keep walking the long, narrow path back to herself. Spring hinted in the air by March. I joined a hiking group. We climbed a hill that overlooked the town. The view stretched wide rooftops, steeples, the glitter of water. A man beside me asked if I was new. I said yes. He asked if I lived alone. I said yes. He nodded, as if that was no weakness. We stood in silence, 2 men breathing the same clean air. At 60, I felt something I had not felt in years. Not power, not control, freedom. The kind that comes when you stop paying the toll for someone else's comfort. The kind that comes when you realize silence at your table is not emptiness, but space to invite people who choose you freely. I walked home from the hill with tired legs and a clear mind. The porch light glowed as I unlocked the door. Inside, the house felt lighter, as though grief itself had learned to share the space instead of crushing it. I set the kettle on, lit a lamp, and wrote the final line in my journal for the season. I am not alone. I am simply beginning again. It is not those. The words looked small on the page, but they filled the room.